prayer. Show me the suffering of the most miserable, so I may know my people's plight. Free me to pray for others, for you are present in every person. Help me to take responsibility for my own life, so that I can be free at last. Grant me courage to serve others, for in service there is true life. Give me honesty and patience, so that I can work with other workers. Bring forth song and celebration, so that the Spirit will be alive among us. Let the Spirit flourish and grow, so that we will never tire of the struggle. Let us remember those who have died for justice, for they have given us life. Help us love even those who hate us, so we can change the world. Amen. That's a prayer attributed to the United Farm Worker leader, Cesar Chavez. My name is Reverend Kurt Lobenstein, and I'm the Executive Director of the Coalition for Economic Justice. We at CEJ strive to ensure that working people have not just what it takes to survive, but to thrive. We published this report, Understaffed and Overworked, today, and it's going to be, you can view it on our website in its entirety. It outlines the problems with understaffing at Catholic health facilities. We asked top-level Catholic health management to come and hear for themselves what affected RNs, CNAs, and maintenance staff had to say about short staffing, but they denied our request to do so. This second report is an addendum to our initial report called Breaking Faith, which outlined the culture of fear that has been propagated at Catholic health. This second report that we are releasing today highlights the effects of short staffing on patients, employees, Catholic health, and the community. We do not take lightly the impact and importance of this report. Hearing the testimony that was given at the second Workers' Rights Board hearing sent chills up my spine. I could not understand how a Catholic institution could be so heartless and uncaring when it comes to the treatment of its own workers. Kavana Neely's testimony sticks out to me the most. Kavana, a CNA, will tell her story later on, but please listen closely to the pain which speaks volumes about the problems facing her and many others. As a minister, I believe that faith without works is dead. If you have a ministry of healing, which the Catholic health system purports to do, then the Catholic health system needs to put some action behind its rhetoric, which centers around reverence, justice, and mercy. That all sounds good, but Jesus calls us to action. Jesus calls us to be where the hurt is. I heard hurt and pain in the employee's testimony before the Workers' Rights Board hearing and during it. Jesus calls me as a religious leader to be on the side of the worker. It is also incumbent on us as members of the West New York community to care about the plight of workers and also to care about the patients they serve and whether they're getting the full attention of their caregivers. When the workers approached us at CEJ, we found their stories to be heartbreaking and knew we needed to bring them to light. We could not, as a coalition of labor, faith, and community groups, stand by as our neighbors were crying out for help. So we do what we have done in the past and convened a second Workers' Rights Board hearing. Our latest report, Understaffed and Overworked, outlines the workers' testimony in heartbreaking detail. It also offers a way forward for the Catholic health system and its workers. It is the ardent hope of the Workers' Rights Board that the Catholic health system realizes that partnership and community dialogue is the only productive way forward. That when Catholic health decides not to listen to their workers, we will shed light on their stories to lift up the entire community. We as community members need to ask ourselves, which side are you on? Do you stand with the Catholic health employees, or do you stand with the management, who seemingly have lost their way? Now I'll introduce Joan Malone, the founding executive director of the Coalition for Economic Justice and the secretary of the Living Wage Commission. She's also on the Workers' Rights Board that just was convened.
Good morning. The Workers' Rights Board was established in 1995. It is critically important that we understand that this is only the second time in all those 26 years that the Workers' Rights Board has returned to the same employer because of the gravity of the situation that was impacting not only employees, but as perhaps more importantly, patients themselves. It is also important to note that on several occasions, by mail, by email, by phone, we have invited Catholic Health executives to attend, to speak so that they can hear directly from the employees what it is the employees are in pain about, are suffering from in their hospital. And all of our requests for their attendance were denied. Instead, Catholic Health issued a statement saying that we are issuing this second report only because we, quote, solicited Catholic Health associates to testify at yet another hearing so we could write another report. That is not true. That is a lie. We returned to receive additional testimony this second time about Catholic Health because frustrated, fearful, and terribly overly stressed employees came and begged us for help. They begged us to give voice to working conditions that continue every day to be destructive. They begged us for help after they had spent years trying to persuade Catholic Health to listen and change what is hurting patients and employees. These brave employees chose to testify about working conditions, specifically this policy of short staffing that we are addressing here this morning, that are so egregious, so negatively impacting their patients, that they did so even if facing reprisals. These committed employees testified so that the Western New York community may know firsthand from those at the bedside how out of touch Catholic Health is. And so we listened to these employees testify. We listened as service staff told us their numbers were literally cut in half. And when they complained that beds were not being cleaned to ensure that there was no blood remaining, they were told by their supervisors at Catholic Health. That's so old school. New school is hurry up, get it done, and get out. We heard from the RN who deals with patients whom she called the sickest of the sick. Formerly, one nurse had cared one-on-one for a heart patient because that heart patient needed the eyes of that nurse on him or her at every moment. Today, because of short staffing, that same registered nurse is now responsible for 3 patients in the same sickest of the sick category. All of them need her eyes at all times. And we listened to the RN who testified to her profound disappointment in witnessing the significant and continuing failings in South Buffalo Mercy's stroke department. It is significant, we believe, that her testimony was recently corroborated by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, who noted in their recently published report that Mercy Hospital has a stroke rate that is worse than the national average. Worse than the national average. It is important that you hear from these employees themselves. This is what they witness every day. This is what they have tried desperately to change. And this, in all candor, is why they are so afraid. Now it is important that we listen to the employees because they know the truth.
And Kavana Neely is the first employee who's a certified nurse's assistant. And she'll be giving a brief statement.
Hello, my name is Kavana Neely. I've worked for Our Lady of Victory Nursing and Skilled Nursing Facility for 7 years. One particular day in May, when I went to work, I was bleeding very heavily. I went to my supervisor's office and described my symptoms. Unusually heavy bleeding, severe cramping, my pants soaked through with blood. My first shift supervisor asked me, see if you can make it through the shift. I worked for as long as I could, but halfway into my shift, I returned to the bathroom and I passed a big cloud. I was crying. I called the supervisor. She told me I may have miscarried. She told me to leave and go to the hospital where it was confirmed I had a miscarriage. I called my job, told them what happened, and I was scheduled to come in the next day. No one told me not to come. I did not want to receive a call off, nor did I want to leave my coworkers short-staffed and our residents not properly cared for. So I put my residents before my own health. That's one of the incidents where short staffing comes into play.
Thanks. The next person, the next worker that's going to be giving a brief statement is Kathy Kelly, who's an RN.
My name is Kathy Kelly.
If you could, when you say your name, spell it as well for us, just for the record. Thank you.
My name is Kathy Kelly, Kathy Kelly. I'm a registered nurse at Mercy Hospital, Buffalo, and have been once for 32 years. Our short staffing has its effect on our patients, but on the staff as well. Working short staff is often overwhelming. We can't care for the patients and teach or give the patients the time that we need to. Recently in January of this year, while working at the hospital, we were working short staffed, and I too became a patient. I suffered a heart attack that morning at work while caring for 5 patients that were heart patients. This is normal. I believe it was due partly to overwork, but many of our nurses are experiencing this on a daily basis, and we are totally overwhelmed. The staffing at Mercy Hospital of Buffalo, our Catholic health system, we have 11.4% turnover rate. At Kaleida Health, that turnover rate, I believe, is 2.5%, which is much lower. Nurses are leaving our facilities daily. They just cannot work under the conditions that Catholic Health has put us into.
Thanks, Kathy. The next registered nurse is Carrie Dilbert. And Ivana, do you actually want to just come back real quick and give them your name before she goes?
Can you spell
Just
your
spell your
name?
name.
Kivana Neely, Kevonnaneely.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Carrie Dilbert, Carrie, Dilbert, Dilbert. I'm a registered nurse at Mercy Hospital, charge nurse. I've worked there for 9 years, and I'm going to talk briefly about the conditions of the hospital. While the administrators of Catholic Health work in a state-of-the-art stone wall building downtown, our hospital and patients, employees are being cared for and working in subpar conditions, substandard conditions. The building, the units are dirty, the floors are dirty to the naked eye, the doors are dirty to the naked eye. So what we want the community to know is that we are working to improve the conditions of our hospital, and we take patient care very seriously, and we don't want our patients to suffer anymore. This has been going on for a few years now. We've made Catholic Health administrators aware, and it's 1 year too long. I work on a telemetry floor where patients need to be cared for. Yes, we are short-staffed. Short-staffing is just a term. I think people need to realize that these patients aren't being cared for properly. They are sitting in their own urine and feces, as I've told them plenty of times, from short-staffing, and the patients are suffering, and we need to make a change. The last thing this world needs is another being giving the Catholic religion a bad name. And that's my story. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. The next registered nurse is going to be giving a little testimony is Linda Bain.
My name is Linda Bain, and it's Lindabain. I've been a cardiac nurse for over 20 years, and I've worked at Mercy Hospital for 17 years. And I do work on a cardiothoracic floor with 40 beds. On a normal day, we are assigned 4 patients, and sometimes depending on the acuity, that could be considered quite a heavy assignment. On a particular day, I was assigned not just 4 patients, but 5 patients, all with a high level of acuity and required constant monitoring and care. The nature of my cases went from a patient unable to move with congestive heart failure who was hooked up to several medication drips, and a patient who was post-open heart surgery with pacer wires and a chest tube with many mandatory protocols. My third patient, who was a post-thoracotomy patient with chest tubes with a PCA pump in severe pain. The next patient was with a thrombosis of the left ventricle of the heart who is at high risk for having a stroke and needed to be monitored closely. This patient did have a stroke the next day. The extra patient I was caring for was waiting for open heart surgery with a critical drip who needed me to take them for several tests, which I had to go off the floor with. I did explain my concerns about caring for 5, not just 4, such acutely ill patients, and I was told there was no other staff. The assignment was very stressful. It was a very hot day on the unit, and I did not make it to morning break. And I took a short lunch break late in the day. This impossible assignment took its toll on me that day. At 5 p.m., I became quite ill. The stress of the situation and the care that I needed and wanted to provide to my patients was insurmountable. I physically got sick. I vomited and was taken to the ER. My blood pressure was 186/106. My coworkers thought I was having a heart attack with the symptoms I presented with. In general, I am a very healthy person, never missing work.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
And the last nurse that's going to be giving testimony today is Corey Gambini. She's a nurse and also the president of CWA Local 1168.
My name is Corey, C-O-R-I, Gambini, G-A-M-B-I-N-I. I'm a registered nurse at Calida Health. I'm president for CWA Local 1168. I'm here to speak about labor relations between the Catholic health system and CWA, my union. It is, even though they have said that labor relations are very good and that progress has been made at the bargaining table, I'm here to tell you that that is a downright lie, bold-faced lie. We are not making progress at the bargaining table. They have failed to deal with staffing issues that protect our patients and protect the staff that care for them. They have failed to allow the registered nurses to have a voice in the workplace to discuss and work with management on patient care every day and on staffing levels. They have a horrible time recruiting and retaining. We had HR call us last week telling us that nurses are quitting left and right and that they needed our help. We said, let's finish negotiating this contract, let's talk about wages and benefits and boost up recruiting. In the meantime, why don't you get some agency nurses in while we do this? And their answer was they can't find qualified agency nurses to work. They're having trouble with the ones that are in the building. So their answer was to shut beds. So they started to close beds. And the, in the cardiac care unit and the telemetry unit. I know what it's like to have a working relationship with management of hospital administrations. I understand clearly the finances of healthcare and the challenges we face every day, but we're able to negotiate and work with other management of other facilities and able to work through these problems and provide enough staff to care for the patients. It is the unwillingness of the Catholic health system to sit with us, have respect for their employees, and frankly care for the patients that they're caring for, because that's absolutely what our goal is and what we want to accomplish through our contract negotiations and moving forward with labor relations.
Thanks, Corey. The next person that's going to be speaking is Howard Stanger, who's a professor of labor, professor in the Department of Management at Canisius College. So, good thing that. Maybe, yeah. There we go.
First name is spelled Howard, last name Stranger without the R, Stanger. I'm not a man of the cloth, I'm a man of the sheepskin. And so when I listen to workers' testimony, I ask myself many times over why. This was not a couple of people who were complaining, this was a systemic problem. So I started to think about why these outcomes, why these experiences. So in over 30 years of studying labor relations, human resources, and teaching it and working in it, come to a couple of big reasons, some small ones within. The first is that Catholic health practices an early 20th century style of labor relations and management. It is hardball, it is relatively mean, and it is adversarial. Second is that its culture is out of whack with its stated values and mission statement. So it has a culture of fear and intimidation, hardball management practices across the system, and there's incongruity between the two approaches. Thirdly, I said two, but there are actually three, is an executive pay system that is really for a for-profit corporation, not a not-for-profit corporation. It focuses on cost-cutting, and when you see lots of cost-cutting, you get the results that you heard this morning. You get understaffing, you get a lot of hurrying around, and you get high executive compensation because the fruits of those savings go to the executives. So those are some of the structural and systemic things. Now, is there another way? Corey Gambini suggested that there is another way. We see that locally with the Collider Agreement, which is a company that, or an organization that merged different hospitals, took a bunch of years to get it all together, and has worked more cooperatively with the same union and the same labor leaders that represent healthcare workers. And that's a local example. And you can see in the most recent agreement at Collider that they added over 100 new nurses, not replacements, but new nurses to deal with short staffing there. Now, there are also national examples in other industries, but particularly in healthcare, I referred to the Kaiser Permanente situation as really an exemplary case, and one that Catholic Health and its unions can follow. About 20 years ago, the company was faced with a $250 million deficit in bad labor relations, a very competitive marketplace. And instead of breaking up the hospital system the way the consultants said they should, they decided to redo labor relations, redo negotiations processes, problem solving, etc. Now this is a system that currently has 110,000 employees, 80% of whom are unionized, 38 plus hospitals across the country, mostly in California. They use a lot of local teams. They change their approach to bargaining to interest-based bargaining, which is less adversarial and focuses more on problem solving. They reformulated their dispute resolution system. They don't have grievances piling up. They cut them off before they get to a grievance. It's a whole different approach, and the secret sauce in this is commitment from both top management and top labor leaders. There are 28 labor unions involved in this arrangement. It's a very complex system, something that Catholic Health and CWA can do over time. It's not perfect. Not every union is involved in it, but the outcomes have been pretty favorable for patients, for the hospital system, for the employees. Best wages and benefits in the industry for the employees, a voice every day through unit teams that also involve doctors and patients. Again, multi-layered, multi-complex system. So whether it's a local arrangement at Collider or a national arrangement that is bigger and more complex at Kaiser Permanente, there is a way forward, and that's just in healthcare. There are other industries that have practiced labor management cooperation with great success. Some have failed, but again, commitment. Does Catholic Health want to go down this approach? If they do, they can get the bargaining done quickly. Thanks.
Thanks, Laura. And the last speaker today is going to be Reverend Merle Showers. He's a retired Methodist minister and the chair of the Living Wage Commission in the city of Buffalo. See if we don't break it this time.
Spelling of my name is Merle, M-E-R-L-E, Showers, S-H-O-W-E-R-S. The Roman Catholic Church has a number of statements and social principles that commend the sacred worth of all people and the sacred worth of life. The Church also has many statements and social principles that describe the Church's respect for workers to organize and to be treated with respect. The Catholic health care system has a great vision statement, and I will quote several lines from that for you. We honor the value of each individual we encounter at Catholic Health. We commit to walking with others through both joy and suffering. We dedicate ourselves to treat all people with respect, dignity, and fairness. We commit to exceed the expectations of our patients, residents, their families, and all people we meet at Catholic Health. The Workers' Rights Board, as you have been hearing, heard a number of testimonies from their staff, and they described things like the patients living or laying in urine and feces, raw sewage on the floor in parts of the medical facilities, of employees expected to work when they were sick or they themselves were in medical treatment, of having one nurse in the ICU or CCU when there were supposed to be 3 staff persons. I, as a member of the Workers' Rights Board, found it hard to reconcile the statements of the Church, one of the owners of this healthcare system, and the vision statement of the Catholic healthcare system with these numerous testimonies of pain, suffering, disregard for the health of patients and staff. Then I remembered that the Catholic healthcare system has chosen to give bonuses to its CEOs and management if they keep the costs down. The incentives are not for how well patients are cared for or for how well the healthcare system is run, but for how much money is saved. I would like to believe that the Roman Catholic Church and its members in this community want to be proud of the healthcare system that is known for the best care possible, for getting a 5-star rating instead of a 2-star rating, for being known as a good employer and having good employee relationships. This will not happen as long as the incentive is money. Living to the very beautiful words of their faith and their social principles and the vision of the Catholic healthcare system will be the only way the people of the Church will be able to hold their heads high.
That's right. Thank you, Reverend Showers. So that concludes our press conference. We'll take questions if there are any.
I'd like to hear from one of the nurses who's willing to answer why you got into this field and how this experience is lived up or not lived up to that expectation.
I'm into this field because I care about people. I was brought up in a strict Catholic family. I have 2 aunts that are nuns, and it was always about giving to others and doing more for your community and for other people. And the love that I was taught, I try to share to the utmost of my ability with others. And that's why I became a nurse. The biggest word that I can say was caring for others.
It's a hard, if you don't mind saying, it's a hard job. It's not for everybody by any means. Has this experience made it even harder for you?
Very much so, because I am a big community advocate, and I see a lot of people utmost care. And if that doesn't happen, it's very frustrating. It's very saddening. And many of the nurses here feel the same way as I have, had pretty much the same type of upbringing that I had. And the biggest thing is nobody wants to see their patients not cared for. When you're there to do a job, you want to do it to the utmost of your ability, not with your hands tied behind your back. And then the caring seems to end at the bedside. With management, it seems like it's gone. And I think we got to get back to basics. And I think that the workers and management need to come together to try to make Catholic Health one of the greatest hospitals in the community. And the only way we can do that is by working together.
Corey, question for you, if you don't mind.
Take care. Thank you, Tom.
So there's no national guidelines from CMS saying that you have to have this many workers, as we've been talking about for the safe staffing legislation for a couple of years now at least. How do you bring this to Catholic Health and say, this is what we feel is safe staffing, when there's nothing set in stone saying that?
There's a lot of data and research that's been done for years, and even based off of California laws that have been put in place there, where actually hospitals have became more profitable and outcomes are much better, and nursing and healthcare worker turnover is less. It's been proven. I think what we bring to the table is that even though I'm the president for the local and I work at Kaleida, at the bargaining table, we have Catholic Health System workers. We have everybody, they work at the Catholics. Just like I negotiate at Kaleida, I work at Kaleida. We're nurses, we're healthcare workers. So not only do we sit there to negotiate language that safeguards our patients, protects our members or their employees, we know because we do the work every day. When I leave the local, I go to the hospital and I work and I care for patients every day. So we know what it takes to provide safe care at the bedside. I've been an RN for 30 years. I know how to take care of a patient. I know what needs we have to care for those patients.
Obviously, we're working on the legislation locally. Are you confident in that legislation?
Yes. We're going to get that passed.
That's right.
Yes.
And Linda, in your case, you said you had to take care of 5 patients one day. What is the recommendation for your field as to how many patients is considered appropriate or safe?
Right now, they have it at 4, but we've been going to Albany, technically. What we were fighting for was the safe patient ratio bill, and that would make my unit have 3 patients. We are a progressive cardiothoracic floor. A few years ago, we would have been, these type of patients would have been in the unit.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.